Greetings, everyone. In our response to the situation in Israel is just to increase Torah learning and to blast out the world with Torah learning. And to that end, I also want to expand people's knowledge of halacha, especially things that they make mistakes about that are serious sins, and include as ribis. Ribis, it is quite complicated because aside from the Isser Daraisa, the Rabbanan gave us extensive usury Rabbanan to safeguard the Isser, many of which people aren't aware of and regularly, unfortunately, transgress. Hashem should forgive them because they did not do it intentionally. So I selected for this limud the Shulchan Aruch HaRav. Shulchan Aruch HaRav, aside from my Lubavitcher roots, but the his style is excellent. How he also brings sources. It's very. He was before the Aruch HaShulchan. He was earlier in the Aruch HaShulchan. The Aruch HaShulchan undoubtedly was inspired by him. Starting from the Gemara and going through the Rishonim, but succinctly. He's very succinct. And you get to the halacha with background. So it's excellent, safer to know the halacha of Maisa, and with some background. And we'll start doing it a few times a week. Subscribe to the channel so you get notifications of what shiurim will be offered and when. Check our regular website also regularly. So should have asked. Okay, well, so do Aruch HaShulchan there is, as far as I know, there is no Aruch HaShulchan on Ribis, sadly. As far as I know, no Aruch HaShulchan on Ribis. So we will use Shulchan Aruch HaRav. Undoubtedly inspired the Aruch HaShulchan and just the style of how you bring the background before you get to the halacha. Okay, without further ado, we are on the Shulchan Aruch HaRav, Hilchos Ribis. Just open it up on my screen. Okay, so first the Rav gives us, a general orientation to the whole topic of Ribis. We have to be very, very careful to not stumble in the prohibition of Ribis, right? And interest, the prohibition of lending with interest is not just if you lend to a poor person. Even if you lend to the richest guy in the world who can afford the interest, still it's prohibited. You should know that there's quite a few psukim and isurim that were put in the chumash, not just on the lender, but even on the borrower. Right, the Torah didn't just prohibit the lender from lending with ribis and demanding it. Even the borrower may not consent. Even if he's desperate, he can't consent and he can't participate and he can't give ribis. This is an amazing chiddush. You see, by any other monetary law, you want to be ripped off. You can allow yourself to be ripped off. You may allow yourself to be ripped off, or you could forgive being ripped off, right? Right? Ribis, but ribis, interest. Because of the severity of sin, the Torah even prohibited the lova of being complicit, even though it's at his own detriment, and he doesn't mind, doesn't care, and he willingly will pay it. Makes no difference, right? The borrower may not be complicit and cannot say, "I'll give it." I'm Michael. No. Shemar. You should not take a bite out of your brother, which means the bite is, the extra money taken out of the bite you take out of his finances, right? Right, and the Torah itself explains. See, it's the Isser is to your fellow Jew. It's it's anything. The Torah, black and white, not didn't just prohibit lending, for interest. Like I'm going to lend you, let's say, let's keep it small, $100, right? And I want 10% annual interest on it. To offset the inflation, Bidenomics, Biden inflation, right? But it's not just neshech, but the Torah, black and white, said neshech ochel. You can't say I lent you 5 apples, give me 6 apples in return, right? Neshech or anything. I feel it's a so that's a call Rosh Ishach. The Torah learned out, what we learn out from those other, and for anything you could like take a bite out of, or it's even if you lend them sticks and stones. Bench or ribis minava bench. Now this is also it. Ribis is prohibited whether it's of the same type or not. What does he mean by this? Right. So let's say I'm going to lend you $100. Listen. When you give me back the $100, throw in a gallon of milk. Makes no difference that that's also ribis, even though it's not more money, right? Or if it's like if the extra above giving back strictly, exactly how much I gave you, makes no difference if it was this plus a whole different object, a whole different type of object. If it's given back together as part of the deal, it's ribis. So $100, and your guy gives you back $100 plus a 12 roses in gratitude that you made the loan. That's ribis, even though it's not money. It's roses. Make sure there is anything additional on top of giving back strictly what was lent, right? Is ribis. If I feel about shavah, but not that, even if it's not even shavah pruta, right? Generally, less than shavah pruta is not considered money, right? Right. Right now, I see there's a machlokas whether it's Isser Daraisa or Rabbanon, right? But it might even be Daraisa. So let's say, for example, don't quote me on this. Let's just say it goes by the value of silver. A pruta is 1.5 barley kernels, 1.5 barley kernels of pure silver. The Rambam writes in the Pirush HaMishnayos, I believe in Kiddushin. So let's just say that's 5 cents. I'm not saying it is. It's actually fluctuates. It's at least according to the Rambam, the Torah is on a pure silver standard, right? So whatever a 1.5 kernels of barley of pure silver is, let's just say it's 5 cents, right? So 5 cents is a pruta. So I say, here's a nickel, give me back 6 cents. That extra penny, even though it's possibly shava pruta and doesn't have a din mamon as far as many halachas, like for instance. By stealing, or God forbid, or I believe hashava saveda, something that's possibly shava pruta, you don't have to give back. But by ribis, it's still prohibited, and some say it's still prohibited. I feel midaraisa. So even though it's not even a shava pruta, right? It's not. It's asur, and possibly they think that the Baal Tanya holds it's asur midaraisa, right? That was Sif Aleph. Right, so now we're going to talk about the severity of sin. Sif Beis. Call malve ribis kilo kaifro. So to lend with ribis is like to deny the existence of God. Ubitzias mitzrayim, and it's also to deny the excess. Ve'eno come b'tchias hamesim, and you don't get up by tchias mesim. You will not be resurrected. And like that. Another penalty of the sin, for committing sin, is that you're going to lose all your money and all your assets, even in this world, right? And this is all from Chazal. He didn't make any of this up, right? I do want to just to inject a little bit of Torah-dical levity in this. There was a guy, bad guy in Posen, where Rabbi Akiva Eger was the Rav, right? And he did every Isser in the book, like he lent to with Ribis, to the desperate. That even though it was also for them to accept those terms, they had no choice. They were just like totally impoverished. He took advantage of people's poverty, and people just couldn't be open. Sorry, but on top of that, he was a miser, raised to inform on people or threatened to inform people to squeeze money. He was an extortionist, and if people crossed him, he used to hand them over to the authorities. A lot of bad stuff for which a person, loses his portion of the world to come, and also if you lose a portion of the world to come, you can be sure it won't be resurrected. So at least to undo some of the damage, and perhaps even give him a chance to repent, right? So on his deathbed, the Chevra Kadisha tells this guy, listen, you want us to bury you? We're not burying you until you give orders from your estate to make good on all the people you ripped off. Be it the Ribis, give them back the Ribis. Whether it's what you informed on them and caused them to lose their house, you got to make good on all the damage you did. Otherwise, we're not burying you. right? So he says, you wait, you see. Right? He died, and without leaving any such instructions. So what the Chevra Kadisha do, they just they buried him, but then they presented a exorbitant bill that kind of, if you add it up, it came close to the approximate figure of all the money he owed to make things right. And that was the bill. That was the burial service that's the bill that they presented. Either he was buried or you want us to bury him. This is the bill you got to pay. All right, like father, like son, his kids informed on them, squealed on them to the authorities. So the magistrate calls Rabbi Kiva Eger, himself, to answer on this. And so the magistrate, being an intelligent guy, wanted to get to the bottom of the case. So he, without telling Rabbi Kiva Eger why exactly he was summoned, he said, no, Rabbi, what do you guys charge? What's the Chevra charge for burial services? Kiva Eger said the real number. Kiva Eger didn't want to lie. So then the magistrate, whips out like these gotcha moments, right? Whips out the bill that the Chevra gave the family of this, this lowlife. So how do you explain this bill? It's like exponential, so many more times, what you just said you charge. Kiva Eger told him it's very simple. We believe in Tchias HaMesim. So when we bury a person, he's not really buying the place, just renting it. But this guy's not going to have Tchias HaMesim. He's not renting, he's buying. All right. And it comes with the call him. So a person who's malvid beribis, it's like he's a heretic, doesn't believe in God. Because when God said these prohibitions, he says Ani Hashem, time. So if by reinforcing with that type of saying, I'm Hashem, who took you out of Mitzrayim. So that means if you lend with rivers, like you're denying God, you're denying Yetzias Mitzrayim, you will not get up by, you will not have Reza. Right? Oh, this is in Chazal. They just bring it down. And you also, and then so you won't have resurrection. And even in this world, all your assets will fall apart. Okay, so it's like to lend with ribis, that is really a crime that does not pay. Not in this, certainly not in the next world, but even in this world, they get even with you. Oh, they've been lover, so now that was Sif Bay. Sif Gimel. Ben Love Umalve Ribis. What the Torah prohibited. You're not even allowed to be a middleman, like let's say broker a deal that involves ribis. Right? By the way, realtors have to be very careful with this. Sometimes the way the deal is structured is a problem of ribis if buyer and seller are Jewish. We'll explain that later of how in what you would think is a normal real estate deal there could be a problem of ribis. You have to be very careful. So now that means the broker also does a prohibition just by being the middleman between them, right? Right. So now, you're not even to be a facilitator, like put together a deal that involves ribis. So if you were the middleman between them, or you helped one of them, you advised one. So let's say you weren't the middleman, but you advised one guy like, "Yeah, this is what you should charge," or you advise the other guy, the borrower. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, accept it. Yeah, you should do it, right? Oh, makom lilvos, lilvos, right? Right, or he advised the person, where to lend from, or not, Lilvos, Alvos, you got some extra cash, you want to make some money. That guy needs a loan badly. You could probably get 10%, get 10% annually out of him, or the same thing, with someone. You need money, huh? You need money. He'll lend you money. Take my advice, no one else will lend you. So it's a lot of ribis, but pay it. So you see how it's like, so look how he's going in ascending order. Like I'm rather, for sure, if you were the middleman that made the deal, you're the deal maker. But even that, that's also, if you do even less than that, right, that you just aid, one of the sides, and encourage them to do it. Even then you're over, even though you're not the actual broker. And then even less than that, even just like advise guy, that guy needs money. He'll pay your rates. Or you tell the borrower, only that guy will lend you, take my advice, agree to the rates, right? When you do all of the above, you may not be guilty of ribis per se, because you are neither the borrower or the lender, but you are over on the Isser, the rights of favor. Let's say, Michel, do not be a stumbling block in front of the blind. About the morally blind, if someone doesn't know any better, or is lacking moral backbone, don't be the one that causes him to stumble, that aids and abets his stumbling. And this is all true, that you're mamish over on an Isser Torah if it's all because you that it happened. Right, so that's the Isser Dorais of Lifnei Iver. When the Torah, is a biblical prohibition, that's a lo sase, a full negative commandment, just like eating pork. Right, that's when if not for you, this deal would have never happened. But we'll see how far it goes. Not just if because you were the broker, but you were the advisor. If you made this come about, that is the Isser Dorais of Lifnei Iver. But let's say they were talking about it anyway. They, the borrower and lender, they're already in discussions. They knew of each other. You just egged them on, right? But they're already in discussions. So in truth, you're not over the biblical prohibition of Lifnei Iver, but you're over on the Isser Midrabanan, because to any time enforce, to back up Yedei over Avera, right? To any time to give any type of aiding and abetting to sinners, even if the sin would have happened anyway, that's also midrabanan. If the sin would not have happened anyway, and because of you it happened, then you're over on Isser Daraisa. But even if it would have happened anyway, right, you're still over an Isser Darabanan by being encouraging in any way, shape, or form. Misha nasa ebedem orev v'chein sofer over beloisa hasei shel Torah shem losil of neshech v'afil ba'adam. Right. So now he says a very simple, but that which I said just now, you're only over on Lifnei Iver, but on Ribis per se. That's if you're just putting the deal together, but you're not a part of the deal, right? You're not involved in the deal itself. You're just the agent to put the deal together or encourage the deal to happen, right? But if you are a part of the deal, like you are a witness, signed on the promissory note to pay back with interest, or you're the guy, you are the scribe who wrote the contract, right? You hear this? Zanja, you're either the or you're a guarantor. You're a guarantor for the lovet, for the borrower if he can't make. So you're involved in the deal integrally, either as a guarantor, right, or as a witness on it, or as the guy who drafted the contract. You're over on Ribis also, because that's the additional part of lo tasil. Do not put upon him neshech, the biting, which refers to usury. Do not put upon him. Do not put upon him. So that comes to include anyone who's involved in as an integral part of the deal, like the guy who drafted the contract, like the guy who's a witness to the transaction, or like someone who is a guarantor. And that's a feeling of them. And by the way, this prohibition is in full effect, even if the loan would have taken place anyway. Right? It's not like Lifnei Iver. Well, that it's not the Isser Midrash only because you made it happen. This Isser of being a part of the deal as a witness or as a guarantor or as a scribe is its own prohibition, whether the deal was going to happen anyway or not. So now he adds in parentheses something quite quite interesting. Let's say you're a guarantor for the borrower, right? God forbid, let's explain this, right? The borrower, he's going for it, and he needs the loan, and he's desperate, and he'll pay the Ribis, right? But the lender says, I'm not going to lend this guy unless he has guarantors, right? So you're from guys that, I'm only going to be a guarantor for the principal, not for the interest. So don't think with that you're off the hook. You're not off the hook, because it's like this. If because you're a guarantor, the whole loan happened, right? Even though you're a guarantor only for the principal, not for the interest, right? right? Yeah, so you're not off the hook because if you because you're the guarantor, the transaction took place to begin with, then you're over on lifnei iver, like we said, because it would never happen if not for you. And if it's okay, it would have happened anyway, but you're still giving support by being the guarantor. You're still over on lifnei iver midrabanan, right? So just being so, what it sounds like over here from what he's adding in parentheses is that okay, if you're the guarantor only for the principal without the interest, you're not over on lo sasimin olav neshech, because that which we said you're a guarantor, you're chayiv on lo sasimin olav neshech. That's if you're a guarantor for the interest also. But if you're a guarantor only for the principal, right, and not for the interest, right, you're still not off the hook. It's if it facilitates the whole thing to happen in the first place, it's lifnei iver. And if it would have happened even without you, you're still misayel dvar avera, right? All right, yeah. Oh, so this is like heavy stuff. Okay, so now the Rav gets into in Sif Dalid, basic definitions of Ribis, the types of Ribis. What's the Raisa, what's the Rabbanon? Klal shel Ribis. So now the general idea of Ribis, who kol shel b'chaver is a schar baram tornas achov shu chayav lo. The general concept of Ribis is that you are getting paid for the delay of not having your money by you, right? So basically, to charge for the time that the money is, not under your hand, like so. Aside from wanting the money back, but you're charging for the time that it's that you don't have access to that money that you lent. That's called Ribis. So any type of asking for any type of reward for having made the loan, so which is defined as for the time that your money is in the hands of the lender, which would include that he wants you to extend the loan, right? So you can't charge for extending the loan, right? He's always breaking the agreement, makes no difference, right? Getting paid for having your money in the hands of others is Ribis. So now, if you're just taking money for the loan alone, but not through commerce, and we're going to explain that later, right? This is where it comes up in real estate very badly, right? So now, so now let's just say first, what's simple, okay? The Isser Doraisa of Ribis is, purely taking interest for a loan. But let's say you could have Ribis midrabanan, like that comes up through business deals. Like, let's say, I had this, God help us. I had this case, someone, I sold the house. Someone took possession of the house before he finished paying for it. And if it's not his until he's fully paid for it, right? Right. I don't want to. I don't want to talk about. I don't want to give examples right now, right? But you should know that there's rabbinic ribis on seemingly what looks like interest that comes up in regular business transactions. That the guy is not just getting the product that he paid for. It comes out mathematically that more money exchanged hands. So we'll talk about this. Okay. So, but let's just the main point he wants to make over here. Let's. Examples of how ribis could come up derech mekach or mimkar, which could be, whatever. We'll discuss it, right? So the dafka the ribis that is for loans, taking money for having extended a loan, right? Whether in the first place or for extending the extension. This is the biblically prohibited ribis. And now this is true, be it that it was stipulated from the get-go, 6% interest annually. That of course is the is the prohibition of Torah. But even if they didn't stipulate it, but I come later, you come and, we say, okay, it's for 30 days. You come back and say, I can't give it back on time. I can't. So I say, okay, I'll let you keep it for longer, but because I really need the money and you're not giving it back on time, I want you to give 6% annually. Right. So even though it was at the time that the loan was given, it wasn't stipulated, but it was like we decide mitten, in the middle of the deal. Right. Right. So you're asking me to, give you an extension. I say, you want an extension? All right. For the extension, I want to get some interest. Right. That's also Ribis D'Oraisa. Right. V'nosilo laharchiv lo zman, right? And now you should know how far this goes, right? Let's say, right? Let's say there's there's another loan, right? There's another loan that you had towards the lender. Get it? So like there's, let's say, there's a loan that you took for 30 days and you want an extension on it, right? Right. So now there's another loan that you took that's, and you're going to pay back that loan early or right now. And so I'm paying back this loan that I could easily push you off on. I'll give you back now, this other loan, so as you should give me an extension on this loan that I'm asking for an extension for. That's also Ribis. Right? So any type of getting any type of remuneration for having extended a loan or giving an extension on the loan in any type of form, whether stipulated at the beginning, comes up in the middle, or you find a way to, shtup him something, a benefit, so as the loan should be extended. All of that seems to be Ribis D'Oraisa. Right? So it would seem from what we're saying. Now, by the way, this secondary loan is not just it's you had 12 months to pay for a piece of merchandise. I'll give it to you early. Now extend your loan. That's all Ribis D'Oraisa. Any type of reward whatsoever for either issuing the loan or extending the time of the loan is Ribis D'Oraisa. Mekach umimkar arei zavak ris was with the reson. But let's say it's actually through. This will be explained in this will be explained in further detail in the book. So I don't want to even try to speak from memory. But let's say there are business deals that the sale is not final yet, right? But you're making payments, and since it's not yet, whatever, and you shtup in some extra, right? That could also be Ribis Midrabanan, even though it's not a loan. We're talking about a business transaction, but anything that looks like Ribis Chazal Aser also. Now, there's a fundamental difference between what the Ribis that the Torah Aser and what the Ribis that the Rabban Aser. Ribis that the Torah Aser, you got to give back. You got to refund, even if the Lova says Hamocho, you got to give it back. Ribis that's Midrabanan, you don't have to give back, right? If the if the Lova gave it willingly, as willing for you to have it, but you do have to give it back to get the sin off, right? If it's Ribis D'Rabbanan, Lot Sesidei Shemayim, right? All right, but again, please, on the particulars, this whole siman that we're doing right now is just an introduction to Ribis. So please don't, the exact examples I say are just to illustrate the general point. Don't hold me to my word, that this is the halacha, because anyway, in the coming simanim, he'll spell everything out. This is just to give a general introduction to the general ideas. All right. We'll do one more. Chobis afil shel rem en mator mechil mos balatir shafil mer lo va'ani nosu batora oze litem lezel kabel שכל רביס שבאוילה מחילה ומתונה היא, שהסורכים ועובדי ארץ צריכים תורה לבוס עושים מהרביס כמתונה גמורה בלב, שואל כדי שימצאו תמיד לבוס, אבל התורה לא מחלה ואסרה מחילה מתונה זו. Right? Now you should know, what we said before a second ago, that by Ribis to Rabbanan you don't have to give it back if the loved is everyone agreed to it. That was when it was done under mistaken pretenses. It was betos, and I neglected to explain that. I hope no one shut off the video 2 minutes ago. Everyone's still continuing right now. I did not express it correctly, what he said before. If it was all done by mistake, right? But everyone's good with the mistake made. Okay, if it's only Ribis Drabanan, the borrower should give it back to take the sin off. But the lover doesn't have rights to it. But that's if it was done by mistake. But let's say premeditated. Everyone forgives. Hey, I know you charge me interest. Or I know this is Ribis Drabanan, I'm mochel. Mechila, being knowing of it and forgiving it doesn't help. So that which we said that there's a leniency by Ribis Drabanan, right? That, but of course, if you care about your world to come, you will give it back. But, it's not Yotze B'dayonim, right? It's not enforceable in this world. Again, if the Lova will leave it by the Malveh, that was telling you what was all done by mistake. But in a premeditated way, let's do Ribis Doraisa, for sure doesn't work. Let's do Ribis Drabanan. Even that doesn't work. To be doing it knowingly, but both sides, the borrower is forgiving, and it doesn't help. Doesn't help. He's aware of the sin. He's aware that's asur, and he's forgiving. It doesn't help because that's the whole chiddush of Ribis. All Ribis is with mechila, right? A person knows he's signing off on usury. He's signing off on interest. It's always been mechila. And it's always believe shalem because you want to pay interest if you could afford it because that way the borrower will lend to you again and lend to you again. So Ribis is always with mechila, believe shalem. That's the business. That's and the Torah said, the forgiveness doesn't help nothing. And just like what the Torah said about the biblical Ribis, the Rabban also made the same idea by the rabbinic Ribis, the rabbinic Ribis. The rabbinic Ribis is also asur, right? Even if it is asur to do under all circumstances, knowingly, right? Knowingly, but I forgive, doesn't help. That which we said that there's leniency by Ribis Drabanan, that you give it back to Lot Sesidei Shemayim was when it was done by mistake. But premeditated, it's asur. The mechila doesn't help, and it must be refunded. So now here's amazing halacha that if you give the ribis as mataram nasachsa, like let's say guy lent you something, right? And you say, okay, I'll give you something extra because you lent me, but it's a mataram nasachsa, but I get it back. But the very fact that it was legally his, because mataram nasachsa shmei matana, sits legally on the paper, on the books, he got something extra for the loan, even though it'll ultimately come back to the guy who gave it, still asur. So even mataram nasachsa is asur al ribis, when the ribis is given as matana because of mataram nasachsa shmei matana. Kol kvar Torah is elas mechila afil ribis shel Torah shein tzarach zira afil lotzeis yedei shamayim, right? All right, so I have to right. Well, let me just. So he says over here they bring down there's a big chiddush, and which means I did not correctly iterate before. Let's say Ribis was already taken, and the lover says, well, no, it's okay. Really, it's okay. Really, it's okay. Even by Ribis Doraisa, right, you don't have to give it back, even Lotzei Sidei Shemaim. Now, it's an amazing chiddush, right? And it seems that, that the lova can indeed forgive us, but and that which the halacha is, you got to give it back is only if the lova insists on it being back, right? So now, no, but again, there are Achron that argue to say, listen, no, even if the lova is mochel, you got to give it back. So that which the Rav Shachar says that the lova can give you complete forgiveness, that you don't have to give it back. You do have to repent for having done this, or that's the chiddush of the Shulchan Aruch HaRav. According to other poskim, he does have to give it back to get forgiveness from heaven. So, like the lova could forego his rights to get his money back if he really is mochel b'leiv sholem. He can forego his rights to get his money back, but you should still give it back to get kapara. Let's say Dei Shemaim. The Shulchan Aruch is Shulchan HaRav is machadish that even if let's say Dei Shemaim, he doesn't have to give it back. You only have to give back Ribis if the lova wants it back, right? Okay, there's a lot for one day, and I have to again reiterate what I say. Whenever I'm teaching a sefer, I'm always teaching as a chavrusa. I do not read it ahead of time, and that's why you'll find me correcting myself as I read a few lines further. And everyone should be aware of that when I deliver a in-text series, I am learning it together with you. It's a chavrusa. So you have to listen till the end of the tape or listen to the end of the series in case we find out that I learned an error. I'm not teaching things that I have studied well before. I am learning the sefer with you. My prepared lectures are thoroughly researched, obviously, but when I teach a sefer online, I am learning it with the online audience. Therefore, always listen to the end of the video and always listen to the end of the series, because maybe in course of learning, I misinterpreted something, and then subsequently, when I see the context or new information later, things have to be revised, like any time you learn something. Okay. All right, Rosh should help. Be safe from this of Ribis. We'll pick it up from here next time. Right? We should hear Besuras Tavis.